our port and starboard aft cabins require a little bit of brightening up. So I'm going to paint the overhead liner bright white and add hull windows. Our job today is going to be to paint the fiberglass liner. This is cream colored fiberglass liner. We're going to paint it bright white. If you can see on here, you can see the cream has all different colors in it. The cream doesn't look very good, so today's job is to take everything out of here, undo the curtains, the bedding, everything out, and then I'm going to sand and paint the liner white. We're going to be using this paint. I find it excellent. It's polyurethane. I've used it many times. It's fantastic. You can roll it on, lap it out with a brush, and you get a professional finish. I've stripped out everything, curtains, bedding, everything that was in here, and we're going to paint this liner white. I've gone around and removed all the silicone from the bulkhead caps. It's only used as a spacer. Unfortunately, they don't actually glue the bulkheads as well, so I'm going to glue that together once I've done the painting. Here's the remains of some of the silicone. You can see the gel coat has changed colors. This is due to the gel coat was actually brushed in the mold, and over time the different thicknesses of gel coat have come through in different color. You can see this is the actual original color that was under a Velcro tab. And once I've done all the painting, and then I'm going to continue with the re-veneering of the bulkheads and turn it into an ash light colored interior. This is the hatch surround. Definitely changed color. It used to be white, now it's very much a yellow. So you can see even against the cream it's yellow. Okay. There you go, there's a better color. We'll clean these up and paint them as well. Now I take some 220 sandpaper and I go and sand in most places, trying to remove a lot of the gloss and give it the adhesion necessary. It's going to take me an hour, I suppose, to do the whole of this, and then it'll be good to go. Give it a wipe down with acetone thinner so I can then varnish. Not varnish, urethane it. I've sanded the fiberglass gel coat. I've wiped it down with acetone and I've masked up round to make it easier for myself. Okay. Now I'm ready. Got my brushes, roller, mask and paint. Now I'm going to mix up. This paint's mixed 2 to 1. And it's chemical reaction paint. It doesn't put off that much fumes, which is really good for this job. Okay. So the next stage is mix the paint and line my back and paint. Now when it comes to mixing the paint, if you wanted to use 750ml, you just tip all the hardener straight into the can. It's got enough room for the hardener and that'd be a proper mix. I've marked the level of the paint inside the can now. This is how much they actually give you in that can, giving room for the hardener, and I'm going to do it in half mix at a time. It's because I'm going to put 2 coats on and I estimate I'll use half the mix for each coat. I've done the same markings on the hardener can. So what I can do is tip the paint out into my bucket until I'm down to each line, and then I know I've got the correct amount. Right, I'm going to give you a little bit of show of the technique of using this paint, so I hope the thing comes out right. Normally I've taken my gloves off and I've taken my respirator off so I can talk to you. This is the panel, and I've lost my brush. I've initially hand brushed around the outside edge just to make things a bit easier, and that's what I normally do. Is put some paint on the roller. Well, difficult to do. And then this type of paint, you just put it on. Do a section at a time. Light this area up. We'll just go to here. You can see it's got a little bit of rough texture to it at this stage, and then you just lap it and it smooths out nicely. Pays the lap that way, but I'm into a corner, so difficult to at this stage. Alright, same down here. If you're doing a hull or something, it's very easy. But an interior liners like this, there's so many corners and bases. It's the idea is not to put it on too thick first time. Make the colour more solid with the second coat, and then same technique here. We'll actually roll this section. Might do the whole lot this time, and then lap it out. Don't get too much. Trying to work one-handed is a little difficult. If you can keep a wet line, you see this paint is, you can't play around with it too much. So basically put it on. Okay, we'll just lap that out. A little bit better coverage on that one. The difficult bit is working around all the obstacles. Up here is far more difficult. I just hand brush it all, but I'll do the main panels. Okay. And that's how it goes. That's the first coat done, and the hatch port light surrounds. Hey, quite a effort to paint upside down in there, but otherwise good. Another coat tomorrow. Let this dry, and the next coat will give it a bit more solidness of colour, but it's looking good. Hey, it's the next morning now and the paint's lovely and dry, and I'm going to go round with 600 grit and look for any runs or any dust in the paint and give them a light sand. And once I've done that, it'll be time to put on the next coat. I'm very happy with the finish I've achieved on the liner. The bright white is a definite improvement over the cream color. The actual color is called Snow White. The white color has definitely made the cabin more inviting. It's now time to move on to the next part of the aft cabin restyle. Inside the aft starboard quarter berth, I'm about to put in a hull window here. As you can see, I've lowered the cabinet, give a bit more shelf space on top. Today's job is to cut out this window out and put my recess mold in. So this is the acrylic area, this is the through the hull, give us the thickness and a nice inside flange. It's 510 by 230. Oh, it's still held on the corner up there. There's the hole from the outside. In case you're wondering, I cut it from the outside. Right at the beginning, I came along and I drilled a hole about here in the center of the stripe. That's where I wanted to line it up with, and I drilled a hole here, just as 1/8 drill bit hole, so I could see it on the inside. And then I set out the hatch, the port size from the inside. Made sure that I was happy with the size to fit in the inside of the boat, then made my insert, brought my insert out here, held it up against the boat, marked around the insert, and then cut from the outside. So the outside shape is quite neat. The inside, as the jigsaw wobbles through, I've got a bit of cleaning up to do and a lot of grinding now on the inside, and then I'll put the insert in. Ready to attack. Well, I finished all the dusty work, all the grinding, and I put my wooden insert into the hole. It's fastened on the outside with a couple of screws holding it to the right depth. See, my laminate's going to go from here through, down the taper, hit the outside laminate, up the corner, round here, and create the internal flange. The acrylic actually sits in this recess here. So the next job is now to gel coat that and then do the fiberglassing. And I'll be using chop strand mat and woven rovings and building up to a thickness probably around 7 millimeters. With the fiberglass complete, the wooden insert removed, you can now see where the window is going to be installed. The next stage has been to add an internal flange, sand it, give it 2 coats of epoxy undercoat, and then I've just put on 1 coat of perfection top coat. Tomorrow sand it back and put another coat of perfection polyurethane. Okay. In the meantime, there's a few other little jobs to do. I've spotted here. These are the bolts that come through from my running backstays. It was an addition after it left the factory, so the owners, there's no backing plate or anything, so we're going to make a decent sized backing plate, stop those bolts being pulled through the deck. Just an example of how jobs expand. Before I can do the headliner in the aft starboard cabin, I think this unit's been leaking. It's a lot easier to get at now, so I'm going to do that. See, look, I peeled it up very well. I don't think it was very well put in before. Okay. And I'm considering moving it inboard so it's easier to walk past. I don't know, I'll make up my mind in a minute. The old holes to the left and new holes to the right. I've reamed out the foam between the laminates of glass, and I'm going to backfill them with epoxy. To hold my acrylic windows in, I'm using screws. I like the idea that there's a bit of a mechanical fastening as well. So I've made up of spaces, hold it in, I've drilled the screws hole, I've marked the inside, and now take it off and prime it. There's, with the acrylic removed, you can see I've drilled the screw holes through. This is foam dam tape I get from Seeker. It's 6mm by 3mm thick, so that it gives the spacing for the acrylic. On the inside of the panel, I've marked the line right next to where the fiberglass is, and then I've marked in a little bit. This is where I'll actually cut it on the inner line, and then I'll black prime to that line so that it's just that fraction inside the window line. Alright, I've cut the inside. I'm ready to apply the UV primer. And you can see I've actually given this a very fine 600 grit sand just to assist the primer sticking. I do the sanding because there's so many different variations of acrylic that I'm after trying to get the best bond possible. The function of the dam tape is that when I squirt the Seeker on here, create a big blob along this edge. I want the Seeker to squirt this way and not inside the window, so the dam tape stops the Seeker from going inside and making a terrible mess. Now that the sun's gone from this side of the boat, I can show you. Yes, the acrylic is installed. To hide the foam dam tape, I've put a silicone bead around the inside. But yes, the acrylic is there. And let's go have a look at the outside. Doesn't that look good? Okay. Hey, for the close-up look. Still see this is where the screw holes hold the pattern in place. I've used screws to hold the main acrylic in. I've done that just to keep myself a little bit happier. I'll paint the screws black when all the Seeker's dry, and then the intention is to put a film over the outside and cut the film to this shape, so it gives some exterior protection. I'm going to use film typically used for covering automotive tail light covers, acrylic covers. Now this is the next morning. This is the final look. I've got the tint still to go. That'll arrive in a few days. The walls have got their new veneer. The windows in now. Looking at adding some extra storage for below the shelf. Like that. It's amazing how the under shelf storage has enhanced the look of the cabin. I think I'll put LED strip lighting in there too. Yeah. I made myself a little tool. It allows me to mark recess distance. I mark the edge of the wood. I can work my way around different places and mark how much to cut off to have it flush. Hey, it's very hard to cut the hole correct. Make yourself a tool and you can mark it. Sorry about the lighting there. Okay, I've cut it. I cut the other side of the line with the jigsaw so that when I wrap the fabric around, it brings it back to almost flush. Into the final stages of the port aft cabin now. Doing trims. I've sanded all the old trims. We have to varnish them and then I can start installing them. I've put more shelves in. We don't actually have a hanging lock anymore. My wife wanted all shelves. The window and surround and upholstery's in. Overheads. I'll paint the section down the side here white. Redo the varnish on the boards. Varnish all the trims. And then we can do final assembly and put the upholstery and that back in. Tips and tricks for the day. If you need to re-silicon your seals and that around your bulkheads, use a flexible electrical tape or something like that. I use quite a narrow one, only 12mm. That allows you to bend around the corner nicely. And also on this textured Formica, it conforms to the texture properly. You don't get the gaps. Paper ones won't sit down into the gaps properly. So what I do is put on a layer around the curves first on the Formica of the electrical tape, and then follow it up with a paper tape so that I've got the width to clean up properly. Alright, so around here I'll run this tape first and then put another layer of paper tape. I put on the black tape, I put on the white paper tape. See how that feeds around here? You can bend it around the corner. Inside corners okay, but very difficult. Press it down with your finger to conform to the shape of the Formica, or use a blade and slide along. Makes it very neat. We have finally finished the starboard aft cabin, and Jan has added her details. So let's compare the before and after images.